Hi, this is Michael Williams. I'm here today with Raghav, and I believe this is our last session. We we may have another one, but I think that this is our last one, and we've been working together for a while. So, first of all, Raghav, thank you for being willing to do this interview with me, and would love for you to introduce yourself and share what you do. You have a pretty unique and very interesting business that you run.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Michael, for having me today. Yeah. So I've been working for with you, I think, for the past few months now,
Mm.
and I actually run a business in India, wherein we make end-to-end IoT solution for electronic manufacturing firms. So we kind of reach out to people and we provide them with our solution, which is software and hardware based. And yeah, so that's what I do for a living. And I've actually been with you for a while now, and for obvious reasons. And yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about how life was for you pre-Pro 90D. What
uh,
Yeah, just tell us how you were feeling, like kind of what brought you to Pro 90D. How were you challenged, or what challenges did you experience with your speech pre-Pro 90D?
okay. So just like any other stutterer or any other stammerer, I used to, have opportunities be right in front of me, but you don't feel like you have the right kind of skill set or the right kind of tools which can help you grasp those opportunities.
Mm,
So actually remember I was at my job, the previous job, like before I started up, I was working with an MNC. So I remember at that point, I used to be in certain situations where I had certain kind of opportunities which I couldn't grab, which was due to my speech, and which actually makes you feel, a lot inferior to other people.
mm,
Whereas on the intellectual side, you feel that you are at par or even better than the other guys.
mm,
So, which is what was uh, like pinching me a lot. So every time I used to be like, whenever I was not able to grasp the opportunity, I always used to feel that it's because of my speech. So one day I just thought I should just let it go once and forever. And then I started Googling the best solutions in the market for getting rid of your stutter.
mhm,
So one thing which I had pretty clear in my mind at that point was I didn't actually wanted to get rid of this, but I actually wanted to become a superior speaker.
mm,
So that I don't really get this back ever again. So
mm,
then I started Googling about it, and I remember I maybe about around an year back I saw your solution, and at that point, I was not sure about it, whether I should go with a local speech therapist or whether I should go for a full-fledged, online course,
mhm,
which I wasn't even sure whether it's going to help me or not. So, but then time passed away, and then my speech actually even got worse. So at that point, I even left my job and got myself into pretty tough situations, even in my personal life. So, which even took a hit on my speech, right?
mhm,
So from an average or a sub-average kind of a speech, I even went down further below. So at that point, I thought maybe it's best that I take some action now.
mm,
And since I had this very clear in my mind that I don't want to get rid of it, but I want to become a superior speaker.
mhm,
And when I Googled at that point, your video came up on the first page. So I had a look at your video, and then maybe it was about slowing down and the seven techniques which you have, right? The 7 or 8 techniques which you have. It was a summarized view of all those techniques.
mm,
So I had at that video, and at that point, I actually got influenced that maybe I should go ahead with this course and the local speech therapists which I visited, they all those people used to just focus on the mechanics, right? They just tell you to do this and do that, but they never actually be with you at certain points or don't help you out with this psychological end.
Hmm.
So, but your course specifically mentions it that it's not just about the physiological side or the mechanics of the speech, but it's more for an adult individual. It's even about the psychological part, right?
Hmm.
So, which is what just got me into your course. Then I visited your website and I saw the testimonials of all the people and the videos and everything. And then I was convinced that maybe this is the right course which is going to help me out with my speech and maybe become a better speaker or a good public speaker in general.
Yeah. So that's a great transition segue into what we're going to talk about now, because we've spread out our coaching quite a bit. So it's not just been a straight 3 months. It's been, I don't know how many months now. So some people fear that when they go through a course like this, um, in fact, they're going to regress. So you've been kind of working on this, and we've been meeting twice a month, sometimes once a month. How would you say you're doing now? What's the difference between how you were before we started and how you're speaking now and how you're feeling now?
Hmm. So I think with just like with any other stammerer or any else, like any other person who gets stuck with their speech, I was extremely low on my confidence, right? So whenever I used to be in any pressure situations or be around people of influence, at that was the point where I used to get stuck the most. So basically, high pressure situations. So one thing for me was that I need to get my confidence up to the top level, right? So that no matter what situation I am in, I have to feel confident and I have to feel calm and I have to feel composed and I don't have to let myself go too easily, right? So that was the one technique which I already had in my mind. But then yeah, so as I went through your course, you went through the psychological part first, and then you went into the mechanics of the smooth speech system, which you have, the Pro 90D system. And things started to get better at that point. The first few months, when you see yourself speaking smoothly for the first time or after a long time, right? So it feels amazing. So which is the exact feeling I had at that point. But then somewhere in the middle, you start losing out on your routine or you start to regress back, which happens with everyone, right? So it happens with everybody, but the major point which we need to focus on is we need to believe in the system, right? So no matter what happens, we need to just believe that this is going to work out in the end. So which is what I did. So I kept up with my daily routine. So I used to listen to the daily audios and I used to practice my speech. Live practicing was something which has helped me. It has actually helped me structure out my speech a lot better and even be more confident. So which are the two things, the major big problems which any starter has, right? It's the structure of this speech and then the implementation, which ultimately depends upon the confidence. So putting myself into tough situations and impromptu situations helped me out. It eventually helped me out. Like it actually becomes your habit to be in those kind of situation, and then it just becomes your daily routine or a normal situation that yeah, it's fine. It's going to happen on a daily basis, and it's fine actually. So that is.
So, yeah, let me jump in and just highlight something, because you just told me today uh, that you put yourself in some situations and at first it didn't work out real well, and you didn't get discouraged because you believed in the process. You had already seen some results. So you kept putting yourself in the same kind of situation over and over. And eventually you were able to speak smoother and feel more confident and calm. And so this is kind of what you're talking about. And the reason that this is important is because people will go through this cycle when they're on this journey. And a lot of people drop out if they put themselves in a situation and it doesn't work out. Then they say, oh, it's not working. But you said something very important. You have to believe that this is eventually going to work out in the end, which isn't really that far away. Right? I mean, you've only been doing this for 4 months or something like that, 5 maybe, right? Good, good. So, yeah. So continue just to share just a little bit about some of your successes. And then I also want you to talk about how this has worked out as a multilingual person, right? Because many, if not most of my clients are multilingual, and they want to know, will this work in their language? And so you can share your experience with that, as well as just any other successes that you've had.
Okay. So basically, 2 points here. First thing, earlier I remember before I joined your course, right? So I remember when I used to have meetings, I used to get really scared, and I used to just write down the complete speech, and then I used to mug it all up so that it gets embedded in my brain, and when I speak it on the real time, it actually comes out fine. So, but now I think over a period of time, when I've been for you for a couple of months or a few months, now that situation has changed now. And now I actually don't write down the whole speech, but I just write down a few pointers and just go out there and try to structure my speech out in the real time. So, which is one success which I've had in the recent times, but I didn't have earlier. And the second thing is, like I said earlier, it's just about the confidence, right? So earlier I used to be, uh, I used to actually have cold feet before going into a high profile meeting. But now I actually feel a lot more confident and relaxed, which is basically due to the fact that I now have the tools which I need to speak out clearly and come out as a good speaker. The second point which you said, uh, which was about, sorry, I forgot, what was the second point? I can't hear you. Hello.
Yes, I had the mute on because there's a lawnmower outside. Sorry. About being multilingual, about
Okay.
how this works in your other language. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very tough point. This has been a very tough point for me. So when I started out, my English was not very smooth, and since being from India, the my mother tongue is actually Hindi, which is for the most of the Indians out there. So my Hindi was still good or maybe kind of average, like, but my English was, I really used to get stuck on the English side. But then when I took your course, things started to change, and my English actually became a lot better than my Hindi, right? And which was basically due to the fact that I was watching a lot of your videos and listening to a lot of your audios, and the major point of references which I used to have was of you, right? Which were in English. So this was a very tricky situation for me. So there was a point during the course wherein my English actually became a lot smoother and a lot clearer than my Hindi. So at that point, I just had to shift my focus back to Hindi and just consciously slow myself down and relax myself down, and the kind of tools which I used to use for English, which was just extend the words and just articulate well, I had to implement the same techniques on the Hindi side as well. So it took a conscious effort and a couple of weeks or a couple of months to get this all tied down correctly. But then, with the kind of persistence, the right amount of persistence, it all actually came out really well. And even my Hindi is has actually improved over time now.
So one point that you made that's really important is that you needed to consciously slow your Hindi down for a while, but not forever, and you didn't have to slow it all the way down where it sounded weird, but you did have to consciously focus on it and slow it down for a while. So people need to know that you have to make a conscious effort, and a part of this process is going to mean doing something that feels awkward, that feels a little strange because it's different. A part of it may mean slowing your speech down in your own language, but it doesn't have to slow all the way down where it's weird, and it doesn't have to stay slow forever.
Correct. So the first few weeks, when I started practicing the Pro 90D tools in Hindi, the first 2 weeks I was really very slow. So there was a point when my colleagues or even my family members used to come up to me and just say, "There's something wrong with you," or "Your speech that doesn't actually look the way it used to be." So, which actually was my aim. I actually wanted people to tell me or come up to me and say that, you sound a bit awkward or a bit slow than you actually are or you usually are. So I did that for a couple of weeks or maybe even for a month. But then when I started to feel a lot confident in Hindi, at that point I started to, just take the pace up a little. So then I gradually, in incremental way, I took it up, and then it came to a point where it all just flew on its own. So I don't make any conscious effort now, but the articulation and the inflections and everything happens on their own now. So which is what we want, right? We all want it to become a part of our habit.
Exactly. So a couple of important things. One, it's becoming automatic now. You're not thinking about it. As people are seeing now, you're able to flow with your speech. You're not thinking about inflecting and extending or whatever someone else might call it. You're not thinking about what you want to say. You're flowing. You're flowing, and you have a nice rhythm to your speech. Tell us about the transformation of your identity. This is important. When people come into the program, generally they see themselves as people who struggle with their speech, stutter, or stammer. How would you describe your identity now?
Yeah. So just as you have it within your course, I mean, the major part of this course is to just change your identity, and you start looking at yourself uh, as a as a pro speaker, or as an individual who really knows his way, right, out of any speaking situations. So which was actually my aim. So just like I told you, even when I was 2 years back, when I was googling for the the speech therapist, I always had one thing in my mind, that I don't want a speech therapist who just knows the mechanics of the thing, but somebody who can help me become a better speaker or a better public speaker and at a larger level. So which is the major, point of your course. And I no longer look at myself as a stutterer, or somebody maybe who struggle with their speech. I don't actually look at myself in that way now. And eventually it actually helps you out with the confidence and your personality and how you meet people, how you come across to other guy or other people. It all eventually ends up on that. So which
Exactly.
has
Exactly. Thank you for that. So if someone were looking at you, I have lots of people who watch these videos, and I'm working with a lot of people who are severe stutterers. I mean, we could barely make it through the assessment session. And then there are people who are very, very mild or very situational. But someone might be looking at this and they might be saying, oh, well, you never really stuttered. You probably just got stuck a few times. So, of course, this was easy for you. What would you say to those people who are watching this who says, he never really stuttered? What would you say to
no
them?
Yeah. So I mean, nothing happens overnight. So when somebody looks at the end result, they don't see the kind of hard work which has maybe gone into that. So even when I have people who come up to me and tell me that you speak really well or you are in control of your speech, but I can't do that. So I mean, one thing which I tell them is it's just about being more confident, and it's just about knowing your stuff, right? So the day that you start thinking that you are a good speaker and you are no less than anyone else, that is actually the day when you start your progress. So maybe even today it's not like I'm 100% smooth speaker. Nobody is in this world, right? So even I have my days when I still get stuck, or when I have an issue with my speech. But the difference between what happened 2 years back or and what I am today now is now I have the right kind of tools to come out of it, and I feel much more confident now, which wasn't the case 2 years back, or when I used to like maybe struggle with the speech. So I think for people out there who are right now struggling with this speech, one thing is to just take the first step, and everything else is going to happen from there on, right? So you have to be persistent, and nothing is going to happen overnight. But you just got to believe in something, right? So once you have the belief and you keep the persistence level up, and you follow your daily routine, then everything is going to fall in place eventually.
So you basically said it right there, but I just want to kind of wrap this up with any any encouraging words that you might have. And I think you've probably already done it, but you invested quite a bit of money, especially for Indians, quite a bit of money, and we don't share prices or anything, right? But you invested quite a bit of money, and there are a lot of people, Indian or not, who see the cost of our coaching, which can range anywhere from 2,000 up to 4,000, and they'll say that's just not worth it, or how do I know this is going to work if I invest this much money? How do I know this? Because I don't have a money back guarantee. And the reason why, I mean, you can probably understand why, because people will get into it riding the fence and put half their energy into it and then say, oh, this doesn't work, give me my money back. And we know it's going to work if you believe it's going to work and if you do the work. So I want people to be fully committed. I've done this long enough where I know it'll work for anyone if they do the work. So what would you say to someone who's out there looking, they're a little skeptical, and they're wondering, man, is this worth the investment? Will this really work for me? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So I was actually in the same situation when I joined your course. So I actually did a research for about 2 months or 2.5 months. I was meeting people. I was meeting speech therapists, and I had the dilemma that whether I should go with a local speech therapist or whether I should go with the online course. So just like everyone else, right? So, but at that point, when I took the decision, and now when I look at it backwards, I think if the course has been worth each penny, right? So, for people out there, I don't think you should get into this looking at the kind of expense you're bearing, but in terms of the kind of reward or the return on investment you are going to get, right? So even if you spend X amount, the kind of the return which you are going to get is five or 10x of that maybe. So and the kind of the change in personality which you are going to get out of this course is just unmatchable. It can't be compared to the kind of money you spend. So it's not just about spending out money, but it's about your growth, your personal growth or your professional growth, or maybe it's about something which is holding you back, which you could get rid of, right? And which is a lot more than the kind of amount you're going to spend on this course. So that was my personal thought when I joined this course, and I have the same kind of views about this course now as well.
Yeah. One thing that you said is something that you can get rid of. And I think people think that they're stuck with stuttering or stammering for the rest of their life. And as you and I have discussed, it's not really a matter of getting rid of it. It's a matter of becoming an excellent speaker, which has the effect of getting rid of it in a sense, right? But people feel like they're stuck with this. Like there's nothing, they've tried programs and they've tried this and they've tried that, and I'm just stuck with it. Nothing really works. But in fact, you can do something about it. You and I both, we still get stuck sometimes, as you said, but you and I both now are much better speakers, much better, much more confident. We can handle whatever situations we're in. And you can do something about it if you want to, and if you choose the right solution, right? Because not every solution is equal.
Correct.
Yeah. Good, good. Thank you so much. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap up? I really appreciate all of your insightful, very, very well thought out comments. I hope this video will be a blessing for people who are watching it. Any other comments you have for us?
No, I just, I mean, this course has actually been a life-changing experience for me. And I've actually managed to change my personality altogether, wherein, I've said it multiple times now, I feel much more confident. I feel I have the right kind of tools now. So, which I think people out there who are in the situation as I was in a couple of months back or a few months back. I mean, you should seriously do something about it, and everyone deserves to speak smoothly. Everyone deserves a smooth speech, but it's just that some people need to work extra harder for that, or extra hard for that, right? So, which is fine. I mean, but you got to put in the effort and do the hard work, and eventually it's going to work out. Yeah. And I hope that even I keep progressing from this point. And I mean, it's just about the daily routine and the kind of effort you put in. So yeah, thanks, Michael, for the course, for the wonderful course. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's all.
Thank you, Raghav. I really, really appreciate this, and I'm sure the people watching this will appreciate this as well. So we'll try to hook up with you again 6 months, maybe a year later, and see how you're doing then. Often when I do that, my clients are even speaking, in fact, usually they're speaking better. They're speaking even better than when we stopped. So we're looking forward to talking with you again. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael.